stand by me only if I'm right. I come out of triple darkness just to see the light. If I say it once, I guarantee I say it twice. If they want me, I ain't going out without a fight. In my dreams, I'm a killer, but for God, man. Try to play it cool, but it's getting hard, man. Rolling with the real and deaf to all the frauds, man. Not too many of me, yeah, it's kinda hard, man. In my room, sitting in my room. Know they waiting on me and I'm coming soon. Never been a sellout, never been a coon. Y'all be on the camera acting like I'ma show 'em how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, patriarchs and matriarchs. It's the B2M podcast, where you got 5 lifelong friends who went from boys to men together, into fatherhood together, talk business together, culture, life experience to provide a little insight and guidance into how we feel we successfully reared our 13 children, including 12 of which are boys. So we come to offer guidance around many topics. And, today we're live. We're broadcasting from the Code in Charlottesville, Virginia. This episode is brought to you by the Tyreek Wynn Collection. Tyreek Wynn, you can reach out to Tyreek Wynn at iHeartMedia. Click the link in the bio for his merch. He is the hardest working producer extraordinaire in the media industry, Tyreek Wynn. And we have Tariq over here, OG, with the merch, rocking the merch. I am a winner. Check it out, y'all. Go cop that. And also with CEO, president, whatever the titles are, Tyreek's doing it all with Wynn Productions, right? So today, I'm joined. I'm the Wavo Black. I'm joined by John, Talik, Waki, and J Moo. Again, we back to you to share some stuff with you. We got an interesting topic today. We're gonna delve a little bit into youth sports and what are the things to look out for in youth sports. Just generally speaking, some of the challenges and opportunities with youth sports. And unfortunately, I'm just going to set it off because we got a lot going on with our young people. And we've had some situations, unfortunately, like with Aqib Talib, his brother being charged with murdering another youth football coach at a game. We see Instagram reels, Facebook reels all the time about youth sports gone wrong with parents fighting in the crowd. And all on the sideline, we never think about the 6-year-old, the 7-year-old, the 8-year-old, the 15-year-old child, teenager that's watching all of this go on. And so what are the key things we want parents to look out for in regards to youth sports?
JG, you want to go first?
Nah, you can knock it out.
I think really, man, the big thing when it comes to youth sports is why do we put our kids in youth sports? That's the first question. Why do we do it? And from my perspective, it's to teach lifelong lessons and it's to teach the values that are important to us. You know what I mean? It's about building character and all that good stuff. Building discipline, character, work ethic, all of that stuff. That's why we do it. Unfortunately, sometimes it goes wrong. Sometimes it goes great. And oftentimes it goes great. And every day when you look in the NFL or you watch an NBA game, you see examples of it going well. You know what I mean? But there are many situations where it didn't go so great. And the reason for that is when people are coming from tough times, man, they lose focus. And now youth sports becomes about young man getting his family out of the hood. Young man becoming the breadwinner and the supporter of the family. You know what I mean? Right. And as opposed to it being about teaching life lessons and maybe it being an opportunity to go to college for free and that type of thing. So I think the first thing that happens is we're losing our focus. Mm-hmm. And why do we do it? And oftentimes, we can lose our focus because we don't put our kid on a team with a bad coach. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A coach whose values are jacked up. You know what I mean? We gotta really start evaluating who we allow our kid to play for. You know what I mean? And as a coach of 20 plus years, that is so important. Sometimes I think about when I was a coach in the beginning. If I saw some of the kids I coached when my first 2 years of coaching, man, if I saw those kids, I'd be like, man, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I was a lousy coach.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
But I put in the time. I read The Gold Standard by Coach K. I read a lot of books on coaching and stuff like that. And I became a better coach. And I think sometimes when we coaching young people, the same way we want those players to become better players, we need to recognize the fact that we need to become better coaches
Yeah,
for them
and,
as well.
and I think two things that before we get somebody else's take it, I just want to unpack what you said. Two things stand out to me. One is we put our kids in youth sports for these reasons. Not everybody, right? And I know you know that.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. Part of the problem is some people putting them in there just because they want them to have something to do in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
You know, we got various reasons, and we got various reasons why people are coaching. And unfortunately, we got too many coaches that don't know what they're doing, period. And they're just a body out there, and they know how to play PlayStation or Madden or whatever, and they know nothing about the social development of young people, and they end up getting a lot of mixed messages.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so, John, what do you think? You've coached your children have played various sports.
Son just
throughout
finished his
the
high
years.
school season.
Son just finished a successful high school year. Shout out to Patriot High School up in
Yes, sir.
Bristol,
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Virginia.
thank you.
My man Gabe, number 8.
Stay semi. Shoulda. Yeah, wish we could.
Let it go, man.
Here it
Had a
goes.
wonderful
Let it go.
11-win season.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Should've.
what's wrong? No, real talk. Because we know, I really want to get into this because what do we hear? What's wrong with youth sports right now?
Right. So what you mentioned too about people who don't know what they're doing, right? And you know, my immediate thought when you say that is like, there ain't wrong with not knowing, but it's a problem with not wanting to know how to do it. You feel me? So
Okay.
I would coach with some guys, and they would do some of this continuing education stuff just to make sure everybody was on the same level. And I would take it. I thought that's pretty good information. And other people like, oh, I let my son take that. That's nonsense. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And going into what you're saying, I would tell the guys, it ain't about me. It's about the fellas. You know what I mean? And I say fellas because I always coach boys. You know what I mean? I coach boys football and
Ain't
basketball.
none of us coach girls.
Okay, all right, yeah, a lot of fellas do, yeah. And so it's about them. You know what I mean? It was never about me. You know, and I would tell the kids anytime we won a game, like, well, them boys made me look good today, you know? And if we lost a game, I felt like I let them down. I need to coach them up. I need to do something. I need to evaluate them individually. I need to build them up. Sometimes you lose some because they're better, you know? And then if you coach long enough, you realize you had the more talent and you messed it up. You feel me? But it's not about the development of the kid. It's not about them starting off. Let's use basketball, for example. In youth league basketball, I might have two kids doing a 2-ball dribble and 2 kids over here that daddy ain't never played catch with him. You know what I mean? He can't catch a throw, dribble one-handed. And so then that's the daddy that's going to be like, hey, I need you to
Maybe
be my
daddy
son.
want to help.
Yeah. And so now you want to tell me what to do, but you ain't never shot ball, played catch, did nothing, right? But it's okay if you want to help out, if you do want to learn. You know what I mean? If you do want. But anyway, again, it's not about the kids. Growth, development, teaching them camaraderie, teamwork, discipline. And when that kid that can't, catch the ball at the end of the season, he might not 2-ball dribble, but he may be dribbling one hand all the way up and the other hand on the way back.
It's about his progress.
And so you see that progress and let them know, hey, you can do this academically, socially. You know what I mean? You put in that work and you can achieve these goals. But again, so many people, and I, for instance, was coaching in an area that everybody had both parents, right? If I say, hey, let's meet for pizza this day. Not only was the kid there, mom and daddy was there and they brought a sibling. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I told my wife at the time, I said, I'm going to coach in this other area. She said, why? I said, because these kids more resemble me. They need a ride from home. I can't make it to practice. You know what I'm saying? So, if I'm helping out, as I am, that I should be there. So, but at the end of the day, it's pluses and minuses wherever you go, because when you do coach in that league or that area that need that assistance, it's immediate. The stability, the role that you're playing in that kid's life, it's immediate and obvious. You know what I mean? Not so much when you're in a different neighborhood when everybody is there, right? And the other thing is you dealing with the nonsense with both parents that if you don't do what they say, we gonna get rid of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But you in this other league, they might just cuss you out straight up. You know what I mean? If you know what the hell you doing, you this, that, the other. So anyway, man, again, I just think it's too much about the adult's ego, and it's not about the kids.
Why do we want our children to be NBA superstars so fast, J-Moo? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a lot of pressure on them. We got to, and that's part of it, is what the parents want, man. He going to the league. You know, I'm going to get him a dribbling coach. I'm going to get him a trainer. I mean, you got kids with trainers at 7, 8 years old now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You know?
That's for those who can afford that.
Right,
And
that's a fact.
Can to do that, because
Right.
you would tend to think most of your stories come, as far as superstars, at least back in the day, they came up out of, they had a story behind
Yeah.
them. You know what I mean? But today, like you said, it's those that are on a different level, economically and everything, where they can afford trainers and trying to get them ready and give them that edge and make them exceptional, to whereas they can, increasing their chances of making the, making the league or whatever the case. So that's unfortunate that's the focus now, as opposed to how it was back then. It's just a matter of just really loving the game, loving it to the extent that you wanted to put in the extra, the child wanted to put in the extra time, shoot a few more hoops or run a few more sprints or whatever the case, to better themselves and to be ahead. Whereas opposed, it's a lot more pressure. It's funny. I think it's the show. What is the show? The Neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
My wife really loves that one, and I watch it from time to time. But this one episode was where the child's father had him playing baseball, but it was really the father's, aspiration and wanted him to play. And the boy his interest was really that of science and academia, really, and he was just really doing that to please his father or what have you. So.
Because how many of us are one player away from making it to the league?
Right.
I'm talking about us parents, right?
Right.
I mean,
In our mind.
I mean, hey,
Fantasy.
if I hadn't hurt my knee, I had the looks, and some of it's true. I mean, sometimes, but
Right.
Could be.
Could have been, but then you gonna make it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And Joaquin,
Vicarious
so
type, yeah.
so how do you deal with the child as a coach that's living in the house? The child has some potential, but he's living in a house with a mother and a father that think he's the next coming. He's not so good,
Right.
but you don't want to punish the child for their ignorance.
Man, the first thing I really think about is my own situation in coaching my son. And I will say this for absolutely certain. My 2 kids had 2 different coaches. I coached both of them, but I was 2 different coaches.
Just like the parent piece.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
another episode,
Yeah, you
right.
know what I mean? With my oldest son, I was like, hey, this is what it is. This is what we going to do. This is how it's going to be. We had track practice. We had baseball practice. We had football practice. We had AAU basketball practice. It was ridiculous at one point. You know what I mean? It was just absolutely ridiculous. But I didn't really, I just thought, I can't get behind. You know what I mean? I felt like if he missed something, he would get behind.
Right.
How you get behind and you 11?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, right.
It's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? One of the things I tell all parents now is whatever your son is doing, keep it fun.
Right.
Keep it fun.
Right.
If you keep it fun, let it be up to them to decide whether they fall in love with it or not.
That's a fact. Right.
If they fall in love with it and they fall in love with the process, then they may go on to pursue it as something they want to do professionally.
And they'll let you know.
And they will let you know.
Yeah.
I remember seeing my man Dan Cathy, owner of Chick-fil-A, and he talked about handing the baton. You know what I mean? And he said so many times, when we want to hand the baton, we just want to hand the baton to the person and say, hey, go. He said, but you mess up when you hand it to somebody and you let it go, but they haven't pulled. He said, if they don't pull, they're not ready for it. And now you drop the baton.
Wow.
And that's the worst sound in the world, is to hear the baton bouncing along the track.
Because
Right.
you disqualified.
Right.
You out. You know what I mean? And what he said was, you don't let it go until you feel them pull.
Yeah.
When you feel them pull, that's when you can let it go. So what that's telling me, when you got a young man, when he said, Dad, when we going to the gym? Dad, when we going out to throw balls? Dad, when are we, or mom, whoever, you know what I mean? Jaden Ivey is a great example of his mom played in the WNBA, and now he was a first-round lottery pick. You know what I mean? Mom, when we going to the gym?
Wow.
You know what I mean? So like, that's when you can say, all right, they fallen in love with it. Or in the case of Venus and Serena Williams, you know what I mean? So many people have a misconception about Richard Williams being, just a tyrant when it came to tennis. And I think it was Venus or Serena, I can't remember which one said it, but she said, somehow our dad Jedi mind tricked us into thinking we wanted to play tennis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so all of a sudden, they was like, oh, we want to go. And now punishment was, you can't go practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you can't go practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if we can get our kids, if we want our kids to pursue that,
If they don't love
it needs to be their
if
choice.
they don't love it, why are you asking them to do it? And the fact is, they might not be good at it, and you can't have illusions about. I mean, be disillusioned about that. You know what I'm saying? And so, go ahead, Talik. You about
My just to kind of tap on my standpoint, right? When growing up playing youth sports, I really never had a desire to play sports. It was all through pressure of my brother. And back then,
Not putting pressure on you.
oh man, you're a punk, you're a wimp, you're a chump, etc.
The toxic masculinity we were
yeah,
talking about
right,
before.
right. And
I'm trying to help you become a man.
Yeah, and well, I was doing a real man's job, and I was going to work.
You're
so
supposed
I
to be working at 12.
man, I wanted to make money, man.
Yeah, all right.
And so my motivation was I wanted to make money. My brother was like, man, you need to play sports.
You got your
So
whole
what-
life to make money.
So what happened was
That's how you saw it.
when I started playing sports, my motivation was a trophy. I remember when my brother and them won the the Super Bowl, right?
Little League.
Little League Super Bowl, and he came home with this big old trophy. And I admired that trophy so much. I was like, yeah, man, so now this is what you got to do to get this trophy. So then I really still didn't want to play,
But you wanted the trophy.
but I wanted the trophy,
They
right?
just hand those out any old
Right.
time.
That's
now.
what I was getting. I was over here biting my
right.
tongue.
So,
God, you can get a trophy so easy, man. If you did not come in first place back then,
right.
no trophy.
Nothing. So what happened was, here I am playing, right? I was good, but if I wanted to be there, I'd have been super great. You know what I mean? I was just doing a lot of stuff on the wham and just regular
Just raw
neighborhood activities because we created our own games back in the days. So just that regular skills was propelling me in these sports that I basketball, track, baseball, etc. But I didn't want to do none of that. And so to fast forward, when my son, when I had a child, my son, when he wanted to play sports, his dad really not motivated. I'm not gonna push him because I don't really want to be there anyway, right?
You the one the son couldn't catch. You was that dad.
I'm the one y'all keep talking about, right?
But he was sharp though. He
Right.
had the J's on.
So yeah, exactly. Oh, he was fresh, right? You know what I mean? Ball hitting him in the mouth, sitting on the sideline, right? He clean, right? But then at the time, I work for myself, so I'm able to be there at every practice, every game, etc. Right? But at the same time, I feel like I'm wasting my time because he's not getting in the game, right?
Right.
But I'm not. But I'm at every game,
You ain't
even
play
the
catch
one.
with him.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I didn't want to participate. I'm that dad that didn't want to participate.
I didn't want to.
And man, look, I ain't got time for that. Like, and of course, my selfish ways, my selfish stuff. I was like, man, I could be out here working. I could be out here making money. He not motivated. He don't want to play anyway. So, that's kind of his story.
Yeah. Hey, Joaquin. So I mean, what do you do when, for example, you have a child that really doesn't want to play and you're the coach, and John, this question, you coach too, and you know the child doesn't want to play, and the parents are putting a lot of pressure on them.
Well, no, that actually happened to me. That actually happened with my youngest son. You know, with my oldest son, I was all about it, and when he was a senior, leaving high school, he had the opportunity to walk on at Alabama, play football, and when he didn't do that, I was devastated. I was crushed. I was like, so after that, my son coming behind him, I don't give a damn what you do. You know what I mean?
Kid rocks and flip flops.
Yeah, you know, I was just so messed up as a parent. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, I'm like, all of those track meets, all that stuff we did, I thought this is why we were doing it. But he wanted to play basketball. So as opposed to walking on at a place like Alabama, and every year they won a national championship, I was sick. But he went and played basketball up in Vermont. You know what I mean? So, you know, and that's what he did, and was very successful up there. Had a great experience, great teammates, all of it. Fantastic experience. But it didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen. You know, I was
pushy.
Still in the selfish parent mode. You know,
Yeah.
the same way I did you.
Right.
I did my oldest son. Well, when my youngest son came along, I was doing the same thing again. Like, come on, man, you got to play. And he would, and my youngest son, he was a unique kid. You know what I mean? Because we would play an AAU tournament, and I could tell he just won't there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd play a game. We get in the car. I'm like, how was the game? He like, good.
That's how they all do now anyway.
I was like, how many points did you have? 2. All right. Next game, get in the car. How was the game? Good. How many points you have? 23.
Same vibe,
Same dude. Didn't make a difference. Didn't make a difference. And I was making him play. I made him play ninth grade. I made him play JV basketball. And after that, I'm coaching his team. In fact, I went back and got a group of kids that were all his friends his age to coach after my oldest son. Yeah. And I'm just like, man, he don't want to play. And then finally, I was like, you know what? You ain't got to play no more. But why? He had told me what he wanted to do at that point. Yeah. Now, what he wanted to do, it wasn't sports. It was esports. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's sports.
And now my son's a professional Call of Duty player. But like, it took me a while to let that go. You know what I mean? So it's a journey that we all struggle with. And finally, my wife was just like, listen, they going to college, not you. You know what I mean? She just really had to let me know, especially with Darius.
Yeah.
She was like, why can't he going to college, not you? You know, I was all excited. You should see me in the you should see me in the pictures visiting Alabama. I was so proud. Yeah. Bought a hat and everything.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, just living through your kids, man, and a lot of parents do that, man. Just I mean, they want the best for them, don't get me wrong, but you just trying to live your dream through your kids, man.
It's like you're trying to get me to go to Alabama and get killed. I ain't going down there. I ain't going for that.
Yeah, man, so I was like, man, I wasn't hearing none of that, man. I was like, I'm not pushing my kid. I was like, look, man, you know, academics, you know what I mean? Because you always hear all these horrible stories. Oh, man, I broke my collarbone, my elbow, shoulder, knees, whatever. And then they almost there. And you done put all that blood, sweat, and tears in it. And then
derail for injury.
And then they messed up. And now they don't want to participate in anything. They don't even want to finish and get a degree. I seen that too many times. I wasn't going to set my son up for that. Absolutely not, you know. Yeah.
And I think the important piece of it is that we got to come from this in our community. It's okay for your kid not to play. It's okay. Because sometimes.
Is it?
Well, I knew John was
I feel that way now. I ain't feel that way then. I feel that way now.
Well, we talked about coaching and dealing with different parents, and I've been on both sides as the coach, as the parent, and you know what I mean? And then we talk about rec league, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus maybe a middle school team versus, let's say, travel or AAU versus the high school team. So it's different levels in how you should be treated, how you should coach. You feel? It's different levels in it. I firmly believe in mind, body, and spirit that I think that boys and girls need to mentally, as far as read books and study, right? Spirituality and something physical. Now I know you didn't play, well, you ran some track or whatever. However, you love boxing.
Right.
You know, so I've really, our conversation 90% of the time is on football and basketball. Right?
Yeah, right.
But you know, hey, you can be a sprint, a track and field person, a boxer, hey, tennis,
Dre
whatever
played
it may
tennis?
be. Yeah, exactly. Whatever it may be, I firmly believe in it, and we should introduce them. I feel the same way about instruments.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Now everybody may not pick up on it, right?
No.
Inside joke, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I would have been in the big band if it
You'd
would.
have been Wynton Marcellus.
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah,
for James. Wasn't for James Moo over here.
Hey,
He messed that up.
9-year-old following 10-year-olds. You know what I'm saying?
It happens, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I firmly believe in it, and so whether sometimes the kid gonna pick up and find a passion and love it, and now it's our job to nurture it. And Talik is right. We all have been guilty of living vicariously through our kids, right? And so we talking about sports, and sometimes again going back to out of control parents, but we live through them. I want to live vicariously through them academically as well. Hey, again, who you surround yourself with, get these better study habits. You know what I mean? So we still want to do that in other areas, but I know we're talking about youth sports. But that's how it gets derailed sometimes, because we as a people, our way out is athletics and entertainment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's it.
Right.
That's
And
that's what we
see
need
that
to
we
talk.
can achieve.
That's what we.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with it is the fact that too many of us, and it's not just our community, but we in our community, too many of us are selling that NFL, NBA, WNBA professional dream to our kids about sports at a young age, when the prospect of them being and making money in business is much higher.
Right.
Over time.
Absolutely.
Like, if we really want them to be rich, then we need to teach them good money making habits and finance and investing at a young age, and get a mutual fund at 8 years old and let it mature by the time they 40 and it's worth $1 million. I mean, you see what I'm saying? So we want to get rich quick. So, and we see sports as an avenue, because at one time, that was the only way black people could get famous, was on
Right.
TV or on somebody's
Nowadays,
field.
Right.
But
right.
now it's so many more avenues for us to get it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So why are we selling sports over becoming a media mogul?
I think
Over supporting them in some other things. I love sports too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong,
Right.
and you
We-
should
we-
play
yeah.
to the extent that you love it, and the extent that you want to stop. But in that the dream part, and then we dressing them up with visors at 8 years old with gloves, and they gotta have the Kyries on, and they soft,
Ain't
and
no
the coach
Kyries
can't
no
even-
more.
Oh, oops.
Is that-
No, hey,
Kyrie ain't got
shout out
shoes
to
no more.
Kyrie, man.
Oh,
Kyrie, I've got mad respect for Kyrie, because Kyrie was wearing Skechers the other night when he
he
came.
sure was. Still had 29.
Yeah, in Skechers, right? But my point is, they gotta have the latest shoe. They gotta look like LeBron, and then as soon as the coach say something to him or sit him down on the bench, the parent want to fight the coach.
Yeah, hey, that's that style over substance, right?
Yeah.
And what's important. And again, man, mind, body, and spirit, and you gain that confidence through playing the sport. You partner and deal with kids from different areas that you normally wouldn't deal with. You know what I mean? You identify leadership skills, and if you're a good coach, you're gonna try to help. You're gonna recognize a natural leader, but I'm gonna put these other kids in position to develop leadership skills as well.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? But again, you gotta love the kids first and make sure it's not about you. But like you say, man, just
I mean, you're a
Well-
competitor as a coach. I get it. You want to win. But you got to know, first of all, the win is, like you said, development. But, I mean, you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip.
Man, I think really
Right.
it's about finding the right balance.
Mhm.
All right? Because as a coach for the last 20 years, when you're coaching kids, basketball, football was the sports I coached. So that's what I'm going to talk about. When you're coaching young people and you're around, and I would hear the adults ask them what they want to be when they grow up, you invariably will, most of the time, hear them say, I want to be an NFL player. I want to be an NBA player. And I would hear what I like to call the dream-killing adults tell them to get a plan B. You know what I mean? And so over the years, having watched my sons have teammates and having watched them coach against and play against other players, I have watched players grow themselves into blocking for Tom Brady for the Super Bowl. I have watched players coach themselves into being on the Milwaukee Bucks when they won an NBA championship. So I've seen it. I saw Jalen Brunson, who was here locally for a little while and playing on one of the little Heat teams here, just signed a $120 million contract with the Knicks. I saw that, okay?
Wow.
But what I also did was when my kids were young, and I kind of developed this was, you know what? I got plan B. It's your job to come up with plan A. And whatever you say plan A is, that's what we will do. More importantly, it was very important to let them know I'm going to support you. So when my son, Kari, came to me at 14 years old and was like, Dad, I know what I want to do. I'm like, what? I want to be a professional gamer. I looked at him like, are you kidding me? And then I realized, oh, you want to put me to the test. I said, okay, all right. But then I went and did my research. I did my research, and I was like, okay, this is going to be big. This is like Tony Hawk in the 80s. You know what I mean? This is like the NBA in the 60s or 70s when it was still on tape delay. You know what I mean? These esports are coming up. I did my research. I'm like, okay. And then me and my wife, we did what you do when you support your kid. See, while I'm pushing basketball and football, he had already found his thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so we committed to supporting him in that. And we bought him all the monitors and controllers. And more importantly, people always ask me, how'd your son become a professional gamer? I said, well, it starts with some irresponsible parenting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because once we committed to that, and he was committed to that, I saw, this is what he wants to do. We're going to have to allow him the time to be great. I've read Malcolm Gladwell's book, all right? We all heard about the 10,000 hours, right? And I'm like, well, this kid is almost, he at the 10,000. What am I going to tell him? Go
So
be an
elaborate
accountant?
on that for those in the audience that might not know.
Gladwell talks about, in order to be excellent, proficient, a professional, to reach the real level of proficiency and excellence, we must put 10,000 hours into whatever it is we are trying to accomplish.
Right.
And so when
you
I
knew he
thought
had been
about
on
that,
that controller in his room
right.
for 10,000 hours.
Absolutely. When I thought
Yeah,
about that, I'm
yeah.
like, I asked him, I said, how good are you? And he was like, I'm good. I said, who the best kid playing in the league? He said, this guy named Simp. I said, Simp? That's funny. Simp.
Bad name.
Yeah.
He
was like, Simp.
Simpson.
I said, can you play? He was like, that's been my friend. We've been playing for years together. I said, oh, okay. All right. So me and my wife went all in, and we totally supported him. So when he travels all over the country and sometimes out of the country, we just got back from Toronto a few months ago, we support that. And we all in on what he wants to do. You know what I mean? So when he turned 18, didn't go to college. He was playing as a gamer on the circuit.
Just a wild guess. Do you got esports parents living vicariously through their kids?
You know what's funny?
It's so young.
You know what's funny?
This is the first generation.
What's really interesting about that?
Wow.
There's no parent support at all. Me and my wife.
You ain't got no crazy parents. Out
It is so funny. Me and my wife are some of the most popular people on the circuit because everybody knows how much we support our son.
Wow.
Like the last team he played on a team in Louisville. The owner of the team sent me and Trey shirts that said Katani's mom, Katani's dad, that we wore to the event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like all of his gamer buddies, everybody knows like, man, your parents are like awesome. Like everybody knows us.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because in this sport now, in esports now, like none of the parents are supporting the kids like at all. And especially they don't support it until they reach big money. You know what I mean? When that one kid, I can't remember his name, won like $3 million in one of the esports things, you'd be amazed at how many parents was like, $3 million for esport? What's going on? All of a sudden, some of the kids started to get a little more support. But you know what else happens when we at these esports events? Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine recruiters, they're there. Why? Because they know the kids only have so much time before their parents like, all right, you got to do something.
Wow.
You ain't successful enough. You know what I mean? You go on join the Air Force. You know what I mean? And so that's the other piece of it that happens, man. You know, like people just aren't supporting their kid. And people look at me and my wife all the time like we crazy for allowing our son to play esports. But I believe that in 20 years we're gonna get the last laugh. I believe that.
You getting the last laugh now if he's happy.
He's a very happy young man.
Hey,
Very happy.
listen. There are a lot of young unhappy young men out here. It is not turning out well for them and a lot of other people in
Absolutely.
society right now. J. Moo, quick question. If your child is on a team and he's struggling, how do you support him through that? In terms of ability, in terms of, and that could be hypothetical or real situation. Like as a parent, that you know, how do you support that? What's your message into him?
Well, I'm not sure.
And a lot of them, let me tell you, because what's in a lot of their ear, and the coach don't know what he's doing anyway.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny because the only time I did coach K. Moo was Pee Wee basketball, and it's funny, we started him there, and I can tell you exactly why, but we started him there, and then when me and his mom split, and she wanted to kind of pull him towards soccer, which was fine if that's what he wanted to do. You know what I mean? I was fine with that. And I wouldn't say he struggled at Pee Wee basketball or whatever the case, but I was easily frustrated because I was so competitive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just be like, you know.
This is my game now.
All
All right,
games,
this
you know,
is
I think I did coach Pee Wee, but then when the
already
following
know.
year, I didn't coach, and I'm over there wishing I had still coached, but I'm all on the ground like just bugging out on certain
You was
plays.
terrible.
Oh my gosh, I was just like, oh, what are you doing? You know,
Hey,
not
I
knowing
know
what
I've
it
been there. I'm guilty of
is.
that.
Like,
I've been
what
there
in the
before,
world?
man.
Oh my, you know,
Yeah.
so I'll be bugging out. So I'm
Ref,
not
oh my gosh. I mean,
qualified
for
to
real?
with regards to that because of the way I used to react.
Yeah.
However, and then sports with him, it was that soccer for a few years. He seemed to like it, and he played that for the longest. Then, and it's funny because my wife now asks like, well, why didn't you keep him up with basketball and everything? Because his frame is more of a basketball type frame and all that.
Uh-huh.
But then at what 4 years old or so, we had him in Taekwondo, and it was funny with that because I was like, okay, if I let this dude take Taekwondo at 4, he is a black belt at 8 or 9. He gonna try me when he's older. So
About 12.
in order for me not to have to shoot him,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Taekwondo with him. So that's
Okay.
actually something that we did together.
Oh, that was
And
just beautiful.
It's funny because he fell out off, after like maybe I think blue belt or something like that, and had lost interest, and that's then again when the soccer piece, and I finished, and I went ahead and followed through and got my black belt in Taekwondo, and then after that, it was I think he even played rugby. His mom had him doing rugby one year. I don't think he'd be like that. Was something more that it's like you said. He needs to be passionate about it and like it. He just kind of did and kind of went along with it. It was one season for that, and he has, like I said, the smallest. He didn't have like a rugby friend. He a small dude, very skinny, kind of tall. He didn't do bad at soccer. You know what I mean? But then, strange enough, in high school, though he was in band, he was playing band, trombone, and one of his bandmates who played trombone as well talked him into wrestling, and that was the last thing I thought he would, would have liked to, do. But he came to us and said, "Hey, Papa, I think I want to wrestle. My friend was it Dominique? He wrestles and whatnot, and so I think I want to go try out and condition with them and whatnot." Man, don't you know that dude wrestled most of
High school.
yeah, most of high school.
Oh, wow.
I think 2 or 3 years. I think he
But
wrestled.
I think a key
go back to what you was
takeaway is
talking
that
about
you just
before.
let it evolve, and
Yeah.
just what were you going? I'm sorry.
No, when you talked about before about choosing friends.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yep,
And,
yep.
that's a good example of a friend choice
Yeah,
that ends up
being a good one, right?
Yeah, being
Right.
a great choice.
Yeah. Let me just stop right here to remind you all that this is the B2M podcast broadcasting from the Code in Charlottesville, Virginia. This episode is sponsored by the Tyreek Wynn Collection, and you can find the Tyreek Wynn Collection at tyreekwynn.iheartmedia, and click the link in the bio for the winter merchandise over here being rocked by Talik, Fatal Attraction journalist, media, hardest working man in media, in front of and behind the camera, Tyreek. So shout out to Tyreek. And this week's podcast, again, by the 5 brothers that have grown from boys into men. We're talking about youth sports, some of the stories and perils. And what I did do was I solicited some questions via email. And in the future, we'll let folks know how to send in some questions. But I have a parent for the coaches who are in the room. A sister sent. I have a son. For the coaches who are in the room, how do I talk to a coach about playing time for my son if he's not playing a lot?
John, you want to go first?
Yeah,
I can go first.
I'll say this. As a coach, and again, when we talking about general terms, rec league to middle school to entry level AAU to high school, etc., right? Doesn't matter what level you're on. I discuss expectations, what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And this is how the playing time is going to work, right? Obviously, that's different in high school versus little league football, right? Everybody probably gonna play in little league football. Everybody not gonna play in high school football. So depending on that level conversation, where they are.
But
you know what I mean?
let me just stop you because in little league football, and I've coached too, and you know too.
Oh yeah.
Everybody playing me. Some people get 4 plays a game.
Right, get the minimum.
Okay.
Exactly. And
They call them
8.
MPR, mandatory. And then if you get stuck at the end of the game and they ever played, they stop the game.
Exactly.
And because every coach trying to get them plays out the way early, and you used to put them guys at receiver,
Exactly.
knowing you're not gonna throw it.
Exactly.
Well, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, you try to hide them. But it all depends on the level. And again, I think if you got excellent coaching, it shouldn't be an issue. But you can have good coaching, unreasonable parents, and you can have unreasonable coaching.
But my question is, the parent asks you, what do I do about it?
As a coach, so what I would suggest to them is the 24-hour rule, right? Don't ask directly after a game. This is something probably I want to ask at the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? What's your coaching philosophy? What's the playing time? How many kids we got? What am I to expect? What can my son do to earn playing time? If a parent asks me, what can my son do to improve himself?
Can we stop for 1 second?
Yeah.
James, can you please act out a mother calling mad about some playing time on his phone? Because I just think you keep being so vanilla
My baby.
right now.
Start off with my baby.
So what?
She vanilla, right? I'm saying, check at the end of the season. The mother's mad after the game and calling him. Can you act it up? Can we see?
I give you a real example.
Can I please see if James can cue that up for us?
Why ain't Raekwon getting more playing time on football game? He come to every practice. He better than most of the players out there. I don't understand why he not getting much playing time as he did.
Right.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you this a real life conversation. Raekwon is in practice, not paying attention. I gotta ask him and redirect him 5 and 6 times, right? And I try to keep him on task, and then he's slowing up practice for the whole team, right? So when he does get in there, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's gonna risk injury. And man, this is high school, and not everybody get to play. And so I'm not gonna let him get hurt, and it's not fair to his teammates if he don't pay attention and learn the plays.
What if it's not high school?
Okay. Well, but let me go to the next level.
Because high school easy because the coach really don't have to say anything.
Exactly. But in this situation, my son got ADHD. He got ADD. I said, man, so do half the team. You know what I mean? So do half the team is diagnosed with something. You know what I mean? Is he taking his medication? Well, yeah. I said, okay. Well, now what? I'm working with him. I'm trying. You know what I mean? And I didn't have any problem with her after that. And what was your?
No, that was it. Joaquin, same question. Joaquin.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in that the truth is never inappropriate, but at the same time, the truth without compassion is cruelty. And so, it's the easiest thing I know how to do is tell you exactly why he's not playing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I can tell you exactly where everybody is on my team.
He
you know
sucks.
what I mean?
Is that what you're saying? So that's what you mean by cruelty?
Smell like armpits.
This is the
Stinks.
beauty of having coached for 20 years is that those kids that was on the bench with me during AAU, those are the very kids that went on to play college basketball. Those kids that many times were the starters, oftentimes they did not make it as far as the kids who were on the bench.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's a real lesson for a lot of parents, because why? Those kids who play all the time, they not being pushed as tough as they should be. And the kids who are not playing, they're going to work during the summers. They putting in the work. They putting in the work to get better. You know what I mean? And at some point, if I'm putting in more time than you, at some point I'm going to pass you. You know what I mean? And so that's really what I have learned, is that you have no idea who's going to be a Division I football player. That guy might have been the slowest. We put him at fullback in Little League.
Yeah.
Next thing you
Right.
know, he a Division I football
Right.
player.
You know.
And so that's the one thing that I learned. So if a parent comes to me with that, I can say to her, first things first, she's not coming to a coach that only cares about winning. She coming to a coach that don't care nothing about winning. And when I tell you that, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I don't care anything about winning. All I care about is how we prepare and how we compete as a team. That's what we're going to do, because the next LeBron James might be on the next team, and you're not going to beat him no matter what you're doing. So you better not be consumed with winning all the time. You know what I mean? The next Usain Bolt going to line up beside you. You better not be concerned with winning all the time. If winning is your motivation, then you're going to quit. You can never be more married to the outcome than you can be to the process. You know what I mean? You cannot. If the outcome is what you seek, then you're going to be setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment. You know what I mean? And so for me, and all of my players will tell you that played for me during AAU, they be like, Coach, you remember when we played against Frank Mason or who else? I don't, all these players? I'm like, nah, not really. Not really.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The kids have to tell me, Coach, you remember when we played against Troy Williams or whoever? Just name the player that might be in the NBA now. I'm like, no, not really, because it was never about that. It was about the way we prepare, and it was about, are you listening? Are you adhering to the principles that we trying to teach every day in practice?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so when your son is not playing, I can tell you, he needs to work on his ball security. He's turning the ball over a lot. If I can put him on the floor and he take care of the ball, he'll play more. I've got him playing a certain position. I need him to rebound more. And he's not as aggressive as I need him to be, so that's why he's not playing. So when you're talking to your son, encourage him to be more aggressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Encourage him to be
Give him
more
some tools.
active. I need you to encourage him. And, man, I can promise you I have no agenda with any of these players up here. You know what I mean? I want to see them all successful. And I understand at this point you don't really know who's going to be successful long term, who's going to fall in love with the sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's why I'm always on that, hey, I'm going to tell you exactly why your son is not playing.
And let me add to that, man, because that's why I'm glad y'all pointed it out, because you said, and so they could come to you and to you because you're a coach that's coaching for different reasons, right? And so, and I'm with you on that, in terms of it's not about the winning. And to me, the reason why I started coaching youth sports after a foray into high school sports, number one, if you play and your kid's going to be out there practicing, you standing out there, you might as well be useful, because a coach is a teacher,
Right.
Amen.
right? A coach is a giver,
First and foremost.
right? A coach does a lot of stuff beyond. And so for me, I wanted to coach because I wanted to be fair to everybody, right? And even though it's times I've coached my children, and 4 weeks into the season, 2 players asked them, why you keep getting into the car with Coach Carter in the practice? It's like, that's my father. They didn't even know. They on the same team.
Oh, wow.
Because I told my kids, don't call, if you ever call me dad out here, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Because let's make that clear. I'm out here for everybody out here.
I'm coach.
And matter of fact, you can be on the bench for sure. And we got too many dads coaching because they didn't start in high school, or they know they used to hoop, and so my son gonna start. He a 3.
Yeah.
I was
He
man,
a
come
point
on,
guard.
man. He's terrible.
He turned
right?
the ball
But
over.
so the whole thing is like, why are you coaching? And so my thing is, I told them we wanted to win, and I wanted to win.
Yeah.
But I said, let me tell you how we win. The way we win is we got a whole lot of stuff to learn, right? And in football, I'm teaching you to go on too early on because I want to teach you discipline and to obey the sound of my voice, right? And I want to teach you discipline. And I'm teaching you things for a reason, right? And so everything that I teach you about effort, about, you know why you're not playing. If you're on a good team, if your child's on a good team, they can tell you why they're not playing because the coach is talking to them about what they need to work on. And so if a coach doesn't, my advice is if a coach doesn't know what your child needs to work on and can't be that descriptive as Joaquin was, then you're dealing with an unethical coach. And when you're dealing with an unethical coach, you need to temper your expectations based on that and know you're dealing with some ignorance. And the best thing you need to do at that point is protect your child's mental health.
Let me chime in a little bit.
That's a lot. That's it.
I wanna ask you guys. I don't know if y'all know or not, but all jokes aside, I was a coach, right? And I coached 14-year-old baseball. Okay, I was assistant coach. My father-in-law at the time was the head coach. We both sucked tremendously, right? Seriously, we both sucked tremendously. I played baseball and I was good at it, right? But as far as coaching, the league did not have no one in place to coach the kids, right? So my brother-in-law actually played on the team at the time, right? But we stink, right? Our coaching ability, we didn't know how to lead. We didn't know how to do any of these things. But we were just filling the space because, we wanted this team to exist. I don't know if what do you do in that case?
It's a lot of that going on, man, because we're
Right.
talking about leagues where you got coaches, but I know up in when you get to some metropolitan areas around some cities, they begging for anybody that's willing to just step up and say, I'll do it.
Right.
And so it's a lot of people that don't even know the sport that's just stepping up to try to have somebody out there.
Here's the one thing I think is absolutely crucial. Just say your son or daughter finds themselves in a bad situation with a bad coach. Here's what you should not do as a parent. Don't badmouth the coach in front of your child.
Right.
That undermines. But what it does more importantly,
It hurts. No.
What it does more importantly is that it starts to teach your son that they're not accountable. Okay?
Right.
And what you want to always send a message is, hey, let's just get better. If you were better, you would play. If you were better, you would play. Even if that's not true. You know what I mean? Always encourage your child to get better. Hey, the coach want to win. So, hey, he going to play the players that help him win the games. You know what I mean? Always push that. You know what I mean? And just encourage your child to keep working hard. Keep giving your best effort. Keep doing all of these things the reason why I put you on the team. But as a parent, please stop undermining the coaches, the good ones and the bad ones, because you teach your son or daughter that they're not accountable for their own play.
Exactly.
You teach them that somebody else is in charge of their destiny, and when they fail, it's somebody else's fault.
And you abandon the lesson to teach them that, that's life.
Right.
That sometimes you working on a team and you not appreciated like you should be, but you can't quit. You understand what I'm saying? You got to fight through it until,
Stick it out, follow
you can
through.
seek the lead, but you need to seek, you're not quitting like this. You got a commitment right now. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So,
Developing that muscle.
and I've seen that in my extended family and in other examples, is all those kids whose parents let them quit, they out there quitting now as adults.
Oh my gosh,
Huh?
that was a big speech I always
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
If you quit
yeah.
now, you're gonna quit on your family. You're
Yeah.
gonna quit in school. You're
Yeah.
gonna quit in life.
That's exactly.
You're gonna quit on your job. You know what I mean? You quitting now, you're just building the quitting muscle.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And so
yeah.
I would always tell the kids that. And so please, 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 if there's one thing I can say, parents, do not undermine the coaches because you're sending the wrong message to
Right.
your kid. Because sometimes you undermining the coach, and he's exactly right.
Yeah.
And now you really doing damage to your
Yeah,
son or
that's a
daughter.
fact. That's
you
a
know what I
fact.
mean? They don't.
Well, a
wanna
lot
work
of
this
times they
hard.
right now because the parents, again, there are a lot too many parents unrealistic about their children's abilities.
And then it go back to that's my baby.
Yeah, that's my baby.
Having that relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That ain't your man type.
That exactly. You can't say to your son, "Hey, you're not good enough." Like Joaquin said, I was like, "Man, listen." Like I told my kid, I was like, "I'm just being honest with you, man. You good, but you short."
Mm-hmm.
That's just it was the truth.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
I would want to see him give you more of a chance in this sport, but right now he doesn't trust it.
Yeah, there was a
but
time.
but we on the team.
Yeah, there was a
I mean,
time
you know,
when my
so-
own son was not playing on my AAU team.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And it wasn't pretty. My wife had an attitude when
Yeah.
we got home.
Imagine she
She
did.
had an attitude.
Yeah,
She had
yeah,
an
yeah.
attitude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at the time, I respected what was going on because I was not the head coach. I was the assistant. And so, hey, you know what I mean? Just because you my son, I'm not going to be like, hey, you need to play. I just constantly kept telling my son, you got to get better. You got to get better. You got to get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was always the message to him. Long term, I feel like it paid off because my
Yeah.
son did play in college. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, don't worry about it. Is not that important to be a superstar at 12 years old.
It's not.
Let
It's
me
not.
just say that to the
It's
to,
not.
to the
Not to the
camera.
ladies though.
It
right?
is not that important for your son to be Pop Warner All-American. It is not that important. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that kill kids' spirit. And the one thing I've learned as a coach, man, there's nothing. I remember one time my son came home. He came home, and he was like, "Dad, I was at the club last night." I was like, "Oh, okay. All right, you have a good time?" He was like, "Yeah, I had a good time." He said, "Man, I saw X player name, and all he kept saying was, 'Man, your dad changed my life. Your dad changed my life. Your dad changed my life.'" And finally, Darius was like, "Man, will you please stop talking about my daddy? I'm trying to get some of these,
Hey
some of
girls,
these chicks in here."
yeah.
You know what I mean? And when Darius was telling me about it, I was like, "What did I say to him?" And he was like, "I ain't ask him. I don't know." And I'm like, I had no idea what I said to this young man. But in that moment, I knew the power of being a coach. And in that moment, all of a sudden, the fear of everything I had ever said to any player I had ever coached came over me. Because now in that moment, I knew what one sentence can do to
That's
a
a
young
fact.
man's life.
Yeah.
I knew what one sentence could change
Yeah.
a man's life, and all of a sudden, he's on stage giving a Hall of Fame speech one day. You know, I
Yeah.
watch those NFL Hall of Fame
Yeah.
speeches
Yeah.
Yes.
every year. And every single person that gets up there to give that speech always talk about that one coach that said this or did that or picked them up or made a difference in their life, the
Yeah.
reason why they were playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, I had the fear because coaches don't take the responsibility of coaching big enough. They don't take it big enough. You know, it is a major responsibility, and we got to own that. You know what I mean?
And the thing is like, is it a one way to put it is like every day you coach a child, you get to spend with somebody's child, you watering a seed.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see some of them sprout leaves real quick. He got 18 points. He got 6 touchdowns. And some of them, man, they just growing and growing. And you put something into them so powerful that those life lessons, man, stay. And that's the beautiful part of coaching. Like you said, you teaching. You impacting lives, man, every day. And they should take
Absolutely.
that responsibility seriously.
Yeah, it's
You
serious.
know.
Man, you got coaches out there trying to sleep with the mamas. You got coaches out
Yeah.
there, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like they out there for
Yeah.
all the wrong
Coach is
reasons.
promising playing time.
Yeah.
Hey, if your son come for me, he can start at quarterback.
Oh,
In
my
Little
goodness.
League.
Hey man, they doing that.
He
in
can
college.
start at quarterback and wear number 12 and he ain't got to pay the admission fee, registration fee.
Yeah, that's real.
That's what's
real.
popping off.
You know what I mean? So go ahead, John.
Nah,
I
Hey,
was
Jay,
about to
go
say
ahead.
I
something.
was just gonna say a quote, man, about us coaching our kids. And again, my time is done now as far as youth sports, right? But one of the things is coaches that coach their own kid often lose out on celebrating their kid. They guard against favoritism to a fault. So to make sure that you celebrate your kids. So I
Yeah.
encourage any dad, mom, coach your child, spend time with them, especially with rec sports. That's easy. and going to what Talik was saying earlier, he didn't know nothing about baseball. That's not as harmful because I knew you wasn't out there screaming. You know, it's nothing worse than somebody who loud and wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
An authority
Yeah.
figure who loud and wrong and
Right.
don't
Yeah.
know nothing, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I ain't play no basketball. Country boy, dirt court basketball, pickup games 21. Played thousands of hours of that. And so when I'm coaching, I got buddies that play ball. Yo, this is what I want to do. I knew what I want to do. I understand the game. And so I put together, boom, I picked different people so I learned. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I didn't have no experience, and I was successful. But, you know, it's the old action. What is it? People don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care, you know? And so we much rather have a parent who volunteer that's not going to do damage to the kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
You might not teach them how to throw a strike or how to catch a, you know what I'm saying? Ground, you know, catch a ground ball properly, but I'm sure you didn't ruin it. Hopefully you didn't ruin it because of
Nah,
the lack of
nah.
support.
I showed them love and
Hey.
and you know, I was nice and I I heard them out and I was there for them. So I mean, I
Yeah.
felt like I added a little value. You know,
Man, you know the one thing I always say as a parent coach,
what you say?
it's 2 times when it's good to coach your son. When he is the absolute best player on the team and when he is absolutely the worst player on the team. When he the best player on the team, ain't nobody complaining. He play all the time because they know he the best player. When he is the worst player on the team, ain't nobody complaining because when he get to play, everybody happy for the little guy because they know he terrible and everybody like, all right, it's
Any
okay.
other time is
But
terrible.
any other time, he not the best or the worst, and he in between, it's parents that will be complaining. Why he playing over my son? Why he playing over my son?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
When it's not clear, that's when you always will have that challenge, you know, as a coach. And I've been on both sides of that.
Yeah. And that's our wrap for the B2M podcast on youth sports. Episode again was brought to you by the Tyreek Wynn Collection at TyreekWynn.iHeartMedia. Another wonderful episode chopping it up about youth sports. Parents, remember, celebrate your children. Get them around some good coaches. If they're not, make sure you protect their mental health. Don't put too much emphasis on the NFL, the NBA, the WNBA over academics, over business. Let them have fun. If it's in the cards for them to be great, they're going to rise to the top anyway, as Cream always does. You got another good word for us, Joaquin, to end up?
Hey, I always like to end it on the words of Frederick Douglass. It is easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men. Thank you.
And on that note, we out.
Peace.
We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning. I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning.